as I mentioned in your intro, like your video quality is like top notch. So I know it's not just you turning on the camera and going ahead like straight into it. So like talk to me about building out a video for your channel. What goes into it, and how do you end up with such a high quality product? What do you focus on, and how are you pushing the envelope, trying to improve on them? And maybe you can use your new podcast as kind of an avenue for explaining that, or we can kind of talk about that after. It's really whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting that how that process kind of develops, because if you look at the first videos on my channel, it is me just turning on the camera. I think that's how it starts with a lot of YouTubers, and then you realize like, hey, maybe my words could be more concise if I, made an outline or wrote a script. So it's all been one massive learning process, and I think a lot of people look at some of the work we put out now and think, wow, that looks really professional, but it's taken us longer than I'd like to admit. And yeah, nowadays when we start a video, there is a crew of teachers that I manage that teach guitar lessons. And so if you sign up for lessons on the site, you might not necessarily get me. You might get, another teacher that I endorse. They're all amazing players with amazing resumes that, for whatever reason, have come over to work with me. And we normally hop on our sort of our company meeting, and we throw out a bunch of kind of dumb ideas. And weirdly, it's kind of, the dumbest idea that normally wins. Admittedly, a lot of these videos, they might be interviews or something like that. And in that case, we don't have to brainstorm. But when we do brainstorm, normally what we're looking for is like a concept that's educational and interesting, but also has this, very childish thing to it. For instance, one of our teachers is very well known for writing this very interesting arrangement of Turkey in the Straw. And he won the national flat picking competition with it. He's like a 3-time winner or something. He's incredible. He's the best guitar player out of all of us. And his name is Andy Hatfield. And so in that call, the pitch was, hey, what if I tried to learn your impossible arrangement of this fiddle tune, but I had an insane time limit. I had an hour. We all laugh. Oh, that would be fun. And then Andy says, if you buy me a turkey suit on Amazon and ship it to me, I'll review your performance dressed as a turkey. And that's the thing that makes it, right? Then it was a video that was in production. We were good to go and we were golden. Another example was that, I wanted to do like an AI generated fiddle tune. I thought that would be a really fun thing to do, like an instrumental tune, but a robot wrote it. And it turned out that someone had built that. It's called Folk RNN, and you could just generate a million fiddle tunes. And I couldn't figure out what to do with it. So instead of it being a company call, because I wanted to, well, actually I didn't know yet, but I didn't bring it up in the company call in any case. I went to ChatGPT and I was like, hey, how do I make this a video? Me and ChatGPT brainstormed. And the robot suggested that I prank my friend with the robot fiddle tune. And I was like, that's it. That's a video. It's like interesting. It's educational. People are going to learn a little bit about bluegrass music. But also we have this weird AI prank thing going on, which is super childish and juvenile. And I love it. Same with the turkey costume. I think those are some of the best videos that we put out, or at least my favorite videos we put out.
No, for sure. And in terms of the podcast, I feel like there's a lot that goes into that. So I actually listened to your most recent one yesterday, and I really, honestly, man, like I was kind of blown away. Like the whole concept is very cool, and I know you said you were kind of doing some of the artwork for it, so maybe we can dive into that. But yeah, I really like that there's like somewhat of a storyline, and then followed by you guys. There's two of you just talking about some history about Gibson, and I thought that was really, really informative. I learned a lot just listening to that. I think it was only 30-40 minutes or something. And man, I was entertained because even the visuals are very cool. So maybe where did the inspiration come for that, and how do you build one of those out?
Yeah, there was another. We call them blue tubers. There's another bluegrass YouTuber that named Eli Gilbert who does banjo stuff. Me and him were going to start a podcast, And the two of us had this hilarious idea that we would call it Podcast with Marcel, featuring Eli Gilbert. But in actual fact, behind the scenes, it would be a 50-50 split. and that was just so comical to us that you would name it just after one person and then do a little like featuring in tiny print. And that idea fell through, and it didn't end up happening. So I went to, Hayes, one of the folks that works for me, Hayes Griffin, and I was like, we should do it. We have the rapport to like make this great. And so it became Podcast with Marcel featuring Hayes Griffin, which is the dumbest name for a podcast. Once again, excites me in that way. And I didn't tell Hayes anything about what the podcast would be. We just set a shoot date, and then I spent an absurd amount of money. I won't even say the number on on all of the like intro audio, and paying a voice actor to be our robot bartender, and just doing all of this behind the scenes work, all of this setup, and all of this world creation about who we are and what our job is. We fish for hydrocarbon on Saturn's moon Titan, and all of this kind of stuff, because it's a space-themed bluegrass podcast. And so then we show up on the first day to like hit record, and I'm like, all right, Hayes, I recorded an intro. I'm just going to play that intro. And then if you see the podcast, it's this very dramatic, almost like Star Trek opening. And Hayes has no idea what's going on. It's like a lore drop for him, right? He just like learned who he is, and who his character is in this universe. And I just started talking to him normally. So if you listen to the very first episode, which isn't animated, it's literally Hayes figuring it out on his feet. And so it's very funny. But in the couple episodes that have come since that, we decided we wanted to animate it. We were going to pay someone to do it, and then I said, I'm just going to do it. And something about marrying, the sci-fi thing with the bluegrass thing, it's like something, more new, this kind of like Star Trek vibe, with bluegrass, something that is older, is a really neat thing to just shove them together. And I did the same thing with the art style. I was thinking like, well, this is a sci-fi thing. It could all be very sci-fi and very, it could all look like that, but wouldn't it be funny if I drew it in like a 1930s, like rubber hose animation comic book style? So that's what I did, right? Almost like I'm taking the animation style, from the time that bluegrass was getting on its feet, and I'm using that as the medium to tell the story. So we're these rubber hose characters, and each episode starts with a comic book that, like you said, does the continuing story, and then we just chat about whatever bluegrass topics, and normally there's a little skit in the middle that is also a comic book, and that's how it works, man. It's insane, but it's not a whole lot of work. We come up with the script for the comic book, but then we just sit down and hit record, just like we're doing right now.
Yeah, but I think the animation part, that like I was looking at that, man, like it's very well done. Like I wouldn't even know how to begin animating something like that, or even drawing something out. Like, what kind of programs are you using? Like Paint 3D wouldn't do what. Wouldn't do that. So.
Yeah, for sure, man. Well, the thing that I did was I had drawn those little characters for just like the logo, for like a little. Just like logo for the podcast. And so when we went to animate it, a lot of that work was done. I had drawn a bunch of different feet and hands, and I do visual art on the side. Any t-shirts you ever see, or anything you ever see from Lessons with Marcel, it's almost always designed by me. But yeah, I drew those characters in Illustrator. I drew all the backgrounds in Illustrator. And and then when I had to animate them, I had to draw all the different mouth shapes. And luckily, that part I can automate. So in the Adobe suite, there's a program called Adobe Character Animator, and I can drop all the graphics in there and drop all the audio in there, and it will sync the mouths to the audio. And that is incredible, because otherwise it would take a prohibitive amount of time.
That's really cool. I did not know that was that feature on there. Jeez.